Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Scripter Joe over here. Let's start with a little bit about this channel and its targeted audience. This is a channel aimed to provide you with Roblox related content and tutorials. If you are someone who is new to programming and wants to learn how to start making games or scripting related assets on Roblox, then this is the channel for you. Now a little bit about myself. I am a college student who learned scripting on Roblox to start making his own games. I first started learning about 3 years ago when the COVID pandemic hit. This is my first video in a Roblox scripting tutorial series that teaches you all the basics needed to script on Roblox. Without further ado, what is programming? Let's say you hired a new maid for your home, and she doesn't know how to perform general tasks without step-by-step instructions in her own language that tell her what to do. Programming is in essence those instructions that you give her. If there is something wrong with the instructions, then the outcome of her task would not be the same as what you wanted. This is how a computer works. You need to give it detailed instructions in its own language, in this case zeros and ones, so that it does what you want. You need to be an expert to communicate with the computer using zeros and ones, and people found it difficult to give the computer tasks using only zeros and ones, and so they made simpler languages that would be easy for learners to understand and adapt to. We call these languages high-level languages. For Roblox, we are learning a high-level programming language called Lua that will help us to communicate with the computer to make it do our bidding, as we are the masters of these lowly computers. And honestly, with the rise of AI, the situation may change, so utilize your superiority while you have it. Alright, so I have Roblox Studio open, and the first thing it will probably ask you is to log in or create an account create an account if you need to, and log in to get started. Any creator or developer who wants to make something from scratch would open this template called baseplate. There are other templates that you can freely explore if you want to later. These templates may have interesting scripts or maps that you might want to look at. What we want to do is open the baseplate template. When this opens, you will witness the marvelous Roblox Studio IDE. And for those of you interested, IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. This is where the development happens. Let's give you a brief introduction to this beautiful, beautiful IDE. Something you might ask is, hey, my IDE is all white themed. How do you make it easy on the eyes like yours? To answer your question, just press the file on the top left corner of this program application, and then go to Studio Settings, go to Studio, go down to Theme, and change it to dark. You can change it to light. I don't like light, it's so dark. That's alright, it's already set to dark. We press close. Okay. Now, let's talk about the tabs over here. We have 6 overall tabs. When you create a script or create a new object, or what do they call it, a new instance, a new tab may pop up that is related to that instance. We call whatever you create on this IDE instance. Now there are 6 tabs: Home, Model, Avatar, Test, View, Plugins. Let's go to the View tab. And over here, what's important is that you have 4 things showing. In the View tab, you can toggle on what you want to show or hide on your IDE. So what we want to show for this tutorial series are 4 things. You want to always have them on, toggled on: Explorer, Properties, Output, and Command Bar. This is the Explorer. Let's toggle it on, off. Properties, on, off. Output, down over here, it shows you everything that will pop up that you want to print. Any errors, anything that you want to know about will appear in the output. Let's toggle it on, off. And the command bar, over here you can just write code, similar to a script, but it runs it directly after you write it and press enter, rather than having to run the whole IDE. We'll talk about that later. Anyways, so we introduced you to the different places that different toggleables you want on, and the tabs. Now let's create a script. So we want to hover over the Explorer interface, and when you see when I hover over anything in the Explorer, any not empty thing, right? Anything. There's always a plus button. We want to press that plus button and create a script. So there are three types of script on Roblox. There's the server script, which is just script for short, and then there's the local script, and then there's the module script. Over here, if I type in script, you can see three scripts. We want to create a server script, which is script for short. So we type in script and then we press on script. That will create us a new script. Now, if you want to move the script around or rename it, to move it, you can press on it and then drag it, and then release it if you want to move it wherever you want to move it. Where we move it is not important for now, but it's important to note that you want your Explorer as organized as possible, so you don't get lost. Oftentimes when you're making a game, right, there'll be a lot of stuff clumped up in the Explorer, and it will be like clutter. So you don't want a lot of stuff disorganized. You want it to be organized, so you make folders, you place them in the right places. The default place to place a script is the server script, is the server script service. So that's why I dropped it over here. To rename the script, you just press, you have it selected, then you press on it once. And you can rename it to whatever you want. I'm gonna rename it to first script. Because this is the first script you're gonna ever write if you're a beginner, right? So, let's see. So you can notice that when we created a script, a new secondary tab popped out of nowhere, right? So we have base plate over here. This is the game, and then we have first script. This is our script. This is the new secondary tab. This is our new script. It opened a place where we can write in code. We can write anything we want, all right? For example, blue blah blah. You will notice that when you type in this baby talk statement, it is underlined in red, right? This means that the computer did not understand what you meant to order it. The computer only accepts orders in a language that it understands. When you run the game, it will encounter an error. For example, let's run the game. Over here, as you can see, a new tab also appeared in the top tab. So we said there are 6 default tabs. Now whenever we add a new instance, as you can notice, a new tab appeared called script. We can run the game by pressing on the drop down arrow below play and then pressing run. Now when I run it, the output down here will show you the error. It told you that the game encountered an error somewhere. It tells you the type of the error. It tells you that there's an incomplete statement. The computer expected an assignment or a function call. It tells you the location of this error, and it tells you it's in the script named first script in the second line. So if you press on the error or on the location, it takes you directly to the error. Now the IDE, we talked about that. So if you press on the red text, it will take you directly to the mistake/error you probably made accidentally or purposefully in our case. So let's delete this baby talk that we typed in and the computer failed to understand. It failed to understand because it is not part of its language. That is why it's important to type things in a language that it understands. Alright, so as you can see, the game is still running. To stop it, we just press on the stop button over here, or as a shortcut we can press Shift F5. We made script changes. Would you like to keep these changes? So as you can see, I changed the script while the game was running. It's asking me, would you like to keep these changes? Yes, we would. Let's go back to the script tab. All right, didn't keep them for some reason. All right, we'll delete it again, no problem. And now let's say you want this gibberish baby talk blue blah blah in your game. So what do? This is where variables come in. Enter variables. What are variables? Variables are basically creating a new language that both you and the computer understand. You store meanings into new words that you create. Those meanings, however, and this is what makes variables useful, are viable to change. To create a variable using Lua, you always start with the statement local, L-O-C-A-L. This tells the computer that you want to create a variable that stores data or a certain meaning you want. You then type in the name of that variable, which has to start with a letter. It cannot have a name that starts with a number. So space, the name of the variable, which we're gonna call gibberish. To assign the meaning of this variable using Lua, you use an equal sign and then you type in the meaning. So we have this variable call, right? The local, which tells the computer that we want to create a variable, the name of the variable, gibberish, and then the assignment equals blue blah blah. Now, before we type in blue blah blah, you need to understand that the computer understands only 4 types of meanings or 4 types of data. So a variable can store in 4 data types or 4 different types of meanings. Those 4 types are strings. Let's show you an example. And those, so this is a string. Strings must be sandwiched between quotation marks or apostrophes. Let's show you an apostrophe. So either apostrophes or quotation marks. And as you can see, they are highlighted in green. Now you can see over here, print hello world. We'll talk about that later. So we created a new variable, we named it gibberish, and then we assigned it to a variable, to a new meaning. And this meaning type or data type is a string, since it's sandwiched between quotation marks or apostrophes. We can have it in either apostrophes or quotation marks. This is for strings. If we type in just blue blah blah, it will encounter an error because it only accepts 4 data types, either strings, which are between quotation marks, or numbers, such as 1, 2, 4, 6, 1231, right? Or booleans, and there are 2 types of booleans, 2 booleans, true and false. They basically mean the same as their names. True means true, and false means false. We'll talk about them later. They are useful in statements, if statements, or loops. We can also talk about the 4th data type, which is nothing. You heard me right? It's nothing. The 4 types of data are strings, numbers, booleans, and nothing. Nothing in Lua is represented by the statement nil. So nil means nothing. So when you create a new variable, all right, and you don't assign it anything, the IDE automatically assigns it to nil. So now we have a new variable. It is the same as local gibberish without equals anything is the same as local gibberish equals nil. All right, so now we know the 4 types of variables. We talked about variables, all right? Now, let's talk about the variability of variables. So the meaning of each variable can change according to however you want. Let's say you have a baby in your game, all right? And so you create a variable called gibberish, and you assign the meaning of gibberish to be blue blah blah. However, when the baby sleeps, or when the baby is sleeping, you change the meaning of gibberish to be Z, 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 which is the text meaning of basically the sound you make when you're sleeping, right? So to change the meaning, you just assign the gibberish again by stating it. So gibberish. So the baby is sleeping now, so we want to change the meaning of gibberish to be Z, Z, Z. And that is a string, right? So strings are basically words, sentences, letters between quotation marks. They can also be numbers between quotation marks, by the way. So blue blah blah, instead of blue blah, we can have 1. But that is different than the number 1. It's a string type. The number 1 is a number type. Now we said we have a baby, right? And we want to change the gibberish meaning to ZZZ when the baby is sleeping. So in our game we have a baby. So what do we do to change that variable meaning, right? We just assign that variable to a different meaning, which is the meaning we want. So to assign it again, we don't have to write local, type in local again, because the local is only when you're creating a variable for the first time. However, if you want to change that variable, you don't have to call local again. You can just write in the name of the variable and then assign it to a different meaning. In this case, we're going to assign it to z. The baby is sleeping now. Z, z, z. As you can see, gibberish changed from ru blah blah to z, z, z. This is how we change it. So whenever the baby is awake, gibberish means blue blah blah, and whenever it is sleeping, gibberish means z, z, z. It is the same variable, mind you, but the meaning changed according to the situation of the baby. The same thing happens in games you probably played where, for example, the developer has a variable called status, and this variable's meaning changes according to the player. When the player is sleeping, status is set to sleeping. When the player is hungry, status is set to hungry. When they're thirsty, status is set to thirsty. This is how variables are useful. They add a dynamic to your game. Alright, let's talk about functions, and we're going to talk about print over here. So let's go back to the computer is like a maid example. Let's say you got a new maid and she doesn't know how to make tea. So you have to tell her each step of the process. 1, you prepare a mug of water. 2, you pour the water in a tea kettle. 3, you place the kettle over the oven. 4, you turn on the fire. 5, you keep the fire on until the water boils, and so on. But the maid has a poor memory, and she makes you tea. She forgets how to make it afterwards. And so the next time you ask her for tea, instead of telling each step over and over again, you give her a piece of paper with instructions written on it. The maid then saves the paper, and whenever you tell her to make tea, she processes the paper using her brain and follows the instructions. Functions are the same as that piece of paper. Each programming language has its own already stored and ready to go functions that you don't have to create yourself. One of these functions in Lua is called print. As you can see, it is colored in blue. This means that the computer recognizes it. Whenever you call a function, you add parentheses after it to add the input. Now, you're gonna ask, what is input? So, before that, what the print function will do is display whatever you input into it. Now, to make this easy to understand, let's go back to our making tea example. You give the maid the ingredients for the tea, alright? 300 milliliters of water and a tea bag. The maid then goes through the instructions and returns to you a cup of tea. The water and the tea bag are the input. They are what you input or give the maid, right? While the cup of tea is the output, what the maid gives you back. The print function can accept any amount of input inside of the parentheses. To add multiple inputs, you can separate them by commas. So comma, 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 all right? But it can only, so we said there are only 4 data types, right? So the input needs to be one of those data types. So as you can see, we can't have it empty. We need to input, and so it gives you an error over here. It's telling you error type, error type, error type. It's telling you that is not a data type I recognize. Blank is not a data type I recognize. If I put nil, that is a data type it recognizes. If I put 12, that is a data type it recognizes. If I put in a string, such as hi, that is a data type it recognizes. If I put in gibberish, but you're going to tell me that's without parentheses. How did it not give you an error? That's because gibberish is assigned to a variable, right? Gibberish is already a variable you created. So it recognizes that variable, and then it will represent that variable as its meaning. Right now, the meaning of gibberish is z, z, z. So if we run this, all right, and let's remove print hello world. Let's run this and see what happens. So as you can see, down over here, we have something displayed in the output. So this is what the print function does. It takes in the input and then it displays it in the output interface. How can we see this output interface? As we said in the view, you want it to be toggled on. Whatever you input into the print function will be outputted in the output interface. So as we can see, we input nil, 12, high, and gibberish. Gibberish, the meaning of gibberish in our case is ZZZ. You might ask, right, why did it not display blue blah blah, since we already assigned gibberish to blue blah blah? Or why didn't it display both blue blah blah and ZZZ? That is because the print function will display whatever the last assigned thing to the variable was. So the last assigned thing to gibberish was the meaning ZZZ. So it will display ZZZ. However, if we place the print function before ZZZ, before we assign gibberish to ZZZ, what will the print function display, or what will the output interface display in place of ZZZ for gibberish? Let's see. It will display blue blah blah. This is because the print function was called before gibberish was assigned to ZZZ, and the gibberish variable was still assigned to blue blah blah. A lot of baby tag now. Anyways, so this is the end of this tutorial episode. What we covered over here was we covered what programming is. We introduced the Roblox Studio IDE. We talked about variables, what they are and how they are useful, and we gave an introduction to functions, right? And we talked about one function that is already stored or integrated into the Lua language, which is print, which displays whatever you input into it on the output interface, right? All right, this is the end. If you want to continue, be sure to watch the next video. If you want to stop here, just save your progress by pressing File, Save to File, and then name it whatever you want. I'm gonna name it Scripting Tutorial 20 number 1 2024, and then you can place it wherever you want. I'm going to place it in the downloads. Then you press save. Be sure to support the channel by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing if you enjoyed the learning experience. And thank you for watching. If you have any questions or inquiries, feel free to ask in the comments section.